She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today. Oh boy.
Oh, it's so good being with everybody here. Thank you so much for showing up and joining us on our journey. We are the Lemonettes, and we're laughing as much as we can. Today, we're really going to laugh because we're talking about red flag relationships. What does that even mean? Red flag, like it could be a red flag from our romantic partner, a friend, family member. Like we're really asking ourselves, are we accepting less than we deserve? And we're going to be talking about how to shift those patterns. Are we ignoring the red flags? Are we honoring ourselves? How to turn that around? And you know what's a real kick in the pants is what if you discover that you are actually the red flag?
Yeah, kick in the pants.
Oh boy,
That's
boy.
a kick in the pants. So I'm going to kick us off today. I was just so excited about this, what I wanted to talk about, and I actually changed my mind several times. And I landed on red flag in family relationships. I landed on guilt, right? Like, to me, that is a red flag. So my mom would try to get me to do stuff using guilt. And now that I'm older, I recognized it for what it was. But it always made me feel dirty. Like, you know, like if she wanted me to call, she would start throwing out guilt. And it would actually push me away, right? So like guilt as a red flag in a family relationship. And it took me a long time, first of all, just to let go of the resentment. Like it took me a long time to figure out why I was pulling away from my mother's relationship instead of leaning in. And then once I discovered that it was that feeling of guilt, she was trying to guilt me into doing something, I was able to look at it a little bit different and have some compassion around it. So that is my biggest red flag relationship. Family guilt.
Interesting. Interesting. Because in family, it's, you know, we have these ideas of what you're supposed to do when you encounter a red flag. And generally it's to run the other way. And you can't necessarily do that with family. You can, but it's not easy. Sometimes we don't want to. So yeah, can't wait to dig into that a little more with you. Who else has an example of a red flag in a relationship?
Well, I have one that it doesn't happen anymore, but it happened early in my relationship. And it would always be this, my husband, who was my boyfriend then, I kind of got put to the back burner. Like if there were fun things to do or places to go or other people to be with or meet, he would just switch plans and change plans on me. And I just stuck around for it. So I just really felt unimportant. And I, of course, probably attracted that relationship to reconfirm that that's how I felt about myself. But I do remember one time in the 90s, my husband's a rugby player, and I said, okay, we're driving down the road. I mean, I specifically remember exactly where we were, in the car, driving down the road, and I was like, you have to decide. It's rugby or me. I don't want to come last anymore. And he turned to me and he goes, I choose rugby. And I'm like, mother. Oh, no. I know. So yeah.
And 32 years later.
But yeah, I just needed that was the type of relationship we were in. And things have changed a lot, but like I tolerated that. I shouldn't have. That was a red flag. I mean, that was into our relationship. And I should have known when we were first dating where it was like, I think he just kind of thought I'd always be there. Mm-hmm. So, and I was very needy. So I think that he was just confident that I'll still be there and he could go do what he wanted to do. So, and then I got a backbone later, but that's how it started.
I love that because for me, it's highlighting the fact that we cannot get this wrong, because you could have seen that red flag and known your self-worth and gone running for the hills, and some other relationship would have come to take its place. Maybe it would have been a more loving relationship. And now you're in a more loving relationship with that same man. Like all roads are perfect, no matter which one you choose to take. Like we get what lessons we need to get out of them. So I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was the point, is that these are the lessons that I needed to learn. Like you said, I was going to learn them with him or someone else. I'm sure, because if I was not in the place yet to like see that those red flags were based on my neediness. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yes, I love that. And I think that is, I have a lot of nieces that I talk to about relationships so much. They're still dating. And that is the one thing that, I usually end up saying to them, about red flags. It's, you don't want to stay around for someone who's creepy and mean and, abusive and all of those things. But, for some of the things like what you just said, Melissa, your story, you really want to kind of use some discretion, right? Is it a real character flaw, or is he just being immature? And is it a lesson? And really, we know now that all the lessons are about us. It's not ever about the other person, right? So to be, reflective and look at yourself and say, what is this lesson about? What is it for me that I need to learn? And is this the person that I want to learn it with? Or you're going to learn it eventually, right? So do you stay with that person and learn that lesson and then make a judgment call, based on your new place of growth? Or do you go on to someone else, the next person? You're still going to learn that lesson. You're going to learn it, So those are some things that, of course, if I'd known that when I was dating, probably wouldn't have kissed so many friends.
Totally.
Yeah, stay with the same frog. Just kiss the same one, right? Until you get it right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some tough lessons, but yeah, that's it. I think that's a good point.
And I also want to say, I mean, I could have left. Mm-hmm. I really could have, right? So, I mean, people can leave. They can choose that. That was not where I was. But I think red flags are important. I really do. I really think they are. We all know what it means. It's a warning sign. So you can choose to like confront the warning, look at yourself, leave the warning, you can look away. Like, I think I saw the warning and I confronted it, and then but I stayed. But I could have just been like, just taking it and not even ask the question. I could have, because there were plenty of other red flags with other people that, because I just needed love so much, that I didn't pay attention to on purpose. So,
isn't that interesting? When you just said that, it really made me think of like my mom and I's relationship, right? My mom was in the place of really needing love and attention, right? That's what it was. And in the growth, as we grow as individuals, as in my personal growth and her growth as well, is it does make a difference. It does. Sorry, I just got distracted. I lost my train of thought.
you wrapped it up with, oh, no problem.
Yay, thank you. I had another really serious point that I wanted to make, but yeah.
Penny?
Yeah, I liked what you said, Drusilla, about all the lessons are about us. And yeah, that's deep. That's pretty deep, actually, if you think about it, because a lot of times we deflect it off into, oh, it's that person or they're causing the problems, but really they're just illuminating the areas of growth for me, right? And so, I mean, I've had lots of opportunities. Gosh, I want to say it was at least, oh God, how old was David? He was young, maybe 13.
This is your son, right?
Yeah, my stepson,
Your
David.
stepson.
He must have been 13 or so, I guess. That's when things kind of went really south with him. And got into a problem with a neighbor's dog, and we put out it's just crazy, the story. It's just a long, drawn out story. And we pretty much by choice decided to disconnect from the neighborhood. And we live in our street only has 8 houses on it. So it's like we were pretty much everybody was not, they were all red flags as far as I was concerned. They were not safe people to be around. They, all this. And through my 12th step work, I realized my part in all of it. And then I went and I made amends to every single neighbor, even called ones that had left the area, because I realized what my part was. And so that's what you were talking about too, Drusilla. I mean, we can harvest the learning or we'll harvest it later, in another situation. Like you were telling your nieces, the next guy will probably have a similar situation if it's something that you need to work on yourself or whatever. I don't think you said that, but that's what I gleaned from what you said. So yeah, we can either harvest it now and get the lesson and then, or do it. It'll just repeat, right? Isn't that the whole thing? Yeah. So that's what I wanted to share.
Great story.
So I'm curious for you, Melissa. Do you remember what you did, or the dance between you and he, and how he, did he just mature based on your realizations?
Immediately.
You
No.
beat it.
I was like, wow.
Wow.
You're lucky.
I was devastated. I mean, like I had been feeling not important, and then he confirmed it. But it was also a setup. I mean, like, he loved me and he loved being with me, but it was like at the height of his rugby career. And in our late 20s, and we lived in Aspen, Colorado for 10 years. It was just like a playground for young adults. And, he was having such a good time. And so the whole thing was a setup. Like I pretty much asked him to give it all up at that minute, at the height of his everything. And
and that was you setting it up. You set it all up. Yeah.
Right. So let's reinforce my feelings of neediness and unworthiness. And I'm going to ask you when you're at the height of your game, to make a choice. And so it was just, that was the setup. And then I think also just that we had the issue out in the air, like, so we could reference it, and he could, confirm, you are very important to me. You're the only one, blah, blah, blah. But I'm playing rugby right now.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we worked it out. It took a long time. And I still had, even when I had children, I still had little teeny voices in the back of my head, like, I'm here taking care of my kids and he's out, and if he loved me enough, he'd be here, that kind of stuff.
Boy, that chatter can sure wipe us out, can it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be my next thought about it. Like, even if in that moment he had stopped and gave you all of that attention, that wouldn't have cured your neediness.
No. There was something else. Good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you imagine the resent that he would hold against you, right? It would almost, part of me thinks the relationship would have ended sooner rather than later. He would have given up a life's passion.
Right.
Yeah, totally. It would have been, you would have been the red flag.
You would have been the red flag.
I'm the blue light special.
Or when you gave him the ultimatum, his mom probably said, "That's the red flag."
Oh, that's a really good point. I often say, look at how a man is treating his mother, and you can tell how he's going to treat you, right?
Yes.
What if your husband's mother is dead? I mean, but just look at that's, it's been a guiding light for me.
I just want to celebrate. I mean, okay, you've been together for how long?
34 years or something.
34 years. Amanda, how long have you been with your man?
26.
And Penny?
We'll be married for 20
years. Mm-hmm.
We'll be married for 33. We've been together for 35 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Drusilla?
Been together for 18, been married for 14.
Okay. So yeah.
And Morgan.
Yeah, I've been with my husband since I was 30. I'm 45 now. So 15 years, going on 16 years. And I am a totally different person than I was at the age of 30. Mm-hmm. And I used to joke when we first started dating that if we had started dating when he was in his 20s, we wouldn't have made it.
Because I said that to my husband too.
Yeah, because he was at the height of his, he was really just getting started in the band and in bars and girls throwing themselves at the band all the time. And, I just there wouldn't have been room for me in that lifestyle. Or I would have had some stuff to work through, like you had to work through your stuff, Melissa, but you do change throughout the course of a relationship. Anyway.
Absolutely. And I think it's also a testament to not that marriage is for everyone, period. It doesn't have to be that way. But I think we've lasted so long because I do my work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a big part of this is having boundaries. Like, where do boundaries come into this? And not only just hard boundaries, but boundaries with compassion, right?
Well, let's hear about that in terms of your mother using guilt on you, Amanda.
So I think where it was like my boundary. I didn't just put it up consciously, but I shied away from that manipulation, right? I felt the vibration of manipulation, and I was like, no, I cannot have that in my life. So I pulled away. And then my mother was wise enough. I don't know. We never had a actual conversation about this point, but my mother was wise enough to give me the space to do it, and she realized that trying to guilt me into doing something was going to have the opposite effect.
Right.
And then I grew up a little bit, right? I am a person, I matured, and then I was able to see how she was living her life and all of that. And I was able to have a little bit more compassion. So when I felt a little bit of manipulation or a little bit of that guilt coming in, I was able to see through different eyes. So that was my own internal growth too. Was first of all, I needed to put the boundary of I'm not going to be manipulated, right? That's from trauma way back. Like I cannot be manipulated. And then compassion was next for me, compassion for myself and for my mother. And that allowed us to heal our relationship. That was self work. We're all talking about working on ourselves to, first of all, recognize the flags and set the boundaries. And yeah, thanks for asking that, Morgan.
Well, I like what you said, Amanda, about having compassion for your mom, because some of the other work that I do in the positive intelligence area that I'm working in is empathy is one of our sage powers, right? Having empathy for ourselves, for others, and for situations. And so one of the key things in that work is to really first to see yourself as your beautiful little child. And I just worked on this today. So here's my little baby. Yes.
Oh, that's adorable.
But
so Penny, for the listeners,
all busted back then.
A picture, black and white picture of herself as a baby holding a ball. I think that is quintessential. I
was in 4th grade here, and I think I was like 6 here, 5 or 6. Anyway, so do you see how everything just changed?
Yeah.
When you have empathy. So if you can see everybody as like a little 5-year-old or a little baby, innocent baby, I mean, that can really maybe help heal some of those situations that are going on in our lives. And I have to tell you that when my husband kind of gets wonky, I keep saying to myself, he's a 5-year-old and maybe he's behaving like one too, but just have a little bit more compassion for them, right?
Yeah. And there is someone who has a practice like where you do get your partner's picture of them as a little kid and then put them out so you do remember that, this is a person that is probably acting out of his little boy stuff or her little girl stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What the Course teaches us is really important. Their innocence is still intact.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really like that. Just so I'm glad that you said that, because if their innocence is intact, our innocence is intact. And then from that loving space, there can be some real decisions to be made, right? Like you, Drusilla, at the very beginning, you're telling your nieces, like, if they're like, abusive or like there's some real clear red flags where you would want to exit that. And I think sometimes as human beings, we need that anger and that fear to actually leave a situation, right? Yeah. And then healing afterwards. And, what if like we were evolved enough to like really love ourselves enough to go, ding, 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 they cross the line, and then leave without hate, but leave nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With love.
Yeah. I'm so happy that your nieces have you to talk with.
Yeah.
Right. When I was younger, I was just out there, ignoring all kinds of red flags.
Yeah. Well, I had a red flag relationship with a friend that I sort of went through all of what you just talked about, but I went through ignoring it first. So this friend was one of my husband's best friend's wives. So she was my friend by association, not by choice. Mm-hmm. And I recognized in her immediately just like histrionic behavior patterns, excessive emotions and drama, attention seeking, overly sexualized, and I just knew right away, not my kind of girl. I mean, she has so many redeeming qualities. she's very compassionate and thoughtful and hilarious and creative and stylish. Like she has tons of amazing qualities, but I just knew this wasn't the type of friend I wanted or needed in my life. It wasn't going to feel like a supportive relationship. And I ignored that insight, that intuition, that red flag because of the proximity to my husband and his friend and, just the whole dynamic. And it wasn't until years later that I was really working on healing my people-pleasing tendency, that I was finally able to let that friendship go. And I did it from a space of love. Like I just stopped initiating contact with her. And whenever she would initiate contact with me, I would respond honestly and lovingly. Those are my two things. And sometimes that feels impossible. Like, we sometimes type dishonest responses because we don't want to tell the truth because it might hurt your feelings. I cut all of that out. I would type the honest response, but I would make sure to partner up and find a way to say the truth from a space of love. And there was no struggle in that friendship. Like it just kind of naturally fell apart by doing that. And yeah, so I something that you were talking about before, Amanda, made me think of that. And I did both. I ignored the red flag and then I healed the
You had the boundaries.
the boundaries. Yeah.
With love. Yes.
Yep.
Morgan, that is such an amazing tool. Like being honest, but being honest, just to use the same word with compassion, right? But I think integrity is huge. Just it's a big life skill in general. Because I still find myself wanting to phrase things in a way that skirt on the truth, but that just skirt on the truth, that just to make someone feel good when it's, like if I were just to pause and just to be more loving and more truthful, I think the relationship would be better. Like my life would be better as I am developing the skill of being truthful with myself first, right? And, and the ones around me. It's a life-changing skill.
It is.
Applauding you to have the courage to do that. I think that's some spiritual 2.0 there, right there.
It took a lot of practice. I didn't realize how deeply embedded that practice of telling those little white lies was, even to the point of someone would invite us to do something. And instead of saying, oh, no, thanks, I'm snuggled in my pajamas and enjoying, some cozy quiet time tonight, I would blame it on my husband for something. Like I can't because John Mark has, just for no reason. Like it just, and it's just interesting how a seemingly white lie, harmless habit just becomes so habitualized before you know it. And you're like doing it all the time. And so I rarely do it anymore. I'm very conscious to just say the truth. Like, and it liberates people to be like, oh, it's okay to just take a night in for myself. I don't have to have an excuse or a reason why I don't want to do something.
And Morgan, will you tell us about what partnering up is and how you do that and how it helped you make clearer decisions?
Well, I will say that it's much easier to do when you're communicating with people by text or email, some kind of communication when there's like a delay because I can sit with it. I can come back to it. Like, is there any defensiveness in this? Is there any fear in this? And basically partnering up is just code for praying and asking for divine help or support or putting Holy Spirit in charge of, whatever you're taking on. So, help me infuse love into this text message. Help me turn off defensive with this text message.
Yeah. When I was having the conflict with my neighbor last week, with just a little over a week ago, I kept saying to myself, I choose love. Mm-hmm. I kept just saying that because I needed help. And I knew I needed help. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep saying, I choose love. I choose love. And then please, God, give me the next words, or love, give me the next words to say. Like, what's the next right thing for me to say right now when she's like raging at me about what a horrible person I am? And it helps. It does. It wasn't perfect. And I, stayed in my loving heart as much as I could. And I got out of it too in that same conversation. So yeah, text messages and emails are a little bit easier because you have that delay. But when you're right in front of the person, and like you, Drusilla was sharing earlier too, in our other part of our recording, that blessing, I was doing the Ho'oponopono prayer too. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That's another tool that as I'm in a conversation, I just start saying it in my head. And that kind of helps me also. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's some part in A Course in Miracles, and this is not a direct quote, but it's a summary of what the message is, that if you are doing your practices, your prayers, your intentions, and, if you're doing that, you can be sure that in the moment when help is needed, it is given. And so you can trust that whatever you said, Penny, because you had the declaration and the intention to be in your heart, that the perfect thing was said for your healing, for healing, for everyone. So that also kind of lets us off the hook. Like, just got to trust, let go, and just trust at a certain point that.
Yeah. It's great, Morgan.
Just love how self-love and love for others is the theme. Like, I mean, we're talking about red flag relationships and how to navigate them. And it sounds like loving yourself and loving, like seeing through all the BS, all of the stuff, and seeing loving that person is just key to life, relationship.
Yeah, it just comes down to love is the answer in all our problems. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty amazing, actually.
And the lessons, the workbook lessons from A Course in Miracles this week. We're all holy. The person with the red flags, if that might be me sometimes.
I am holding the red flag at this moment.
Yeah, and I'm holy. My husband's holy, and I mean, you don't like ignore some of those things that you see if you need to get out of a relationship or whatever. But yeah, we're all holy. We're all doing the best we can. We're all sometimes the 5-year-olds, right?
Well, we're all 5-year-olds all the time.
Yeah, that was another tool.
Yeah.
Seeing yourself and whoever the red flag person is, and their innocence and their childishness.
Yeah.
Just feel like it's Penny's Post-it time.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Like it.
So the first one is all lessons are about us, all lessons are about us. It's really hard to read this backwards. I just want you guys to know. Harvest the learning or do it later. You can harvest the learning when it happens the first time, or it might take 10 or 15. Who knows, right?
Or 2000.
Or what did like Buddha said that he was reincarnated thousands of times, like before he got it. Yeah. And then we all have stuff to work through. So doing the work matters. That's what I heard. And then I loved ACM teaches us their innocence is still intact. And so is ours. And so is everyone's. So that's what I've got for today. Yeah, another really beautiful episode. You Lemonettes just knocked it out of the park again. I love it. So next week we'll we'll continue to blah blah. We'll continue to explore relationships and different aspects of relationships. And next week it's going to be ego in relationships, how our own egos play a role in relationship struggles, power dynamics, and emotional triggers. Yep, that's a good one. Yeah. And so come back next week and join us as we unpack that. It's sure to be another fun-filled, insightful recording podcast. So anyway, thank you everyone for sharing this sacred space with us. We so appreciate and love you. And, we're all here to assist you in any way that we can. You can reach us at 5lemonslaughing.com, or you can post something in one of the platforms that you listen to us on. So keep coming back. We really appreciate it. And more will be revealed next week. So thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.